there's a truce. Will it hold?
I think it will probably hold for the time being. I mean, it's a bit sort of peace in our time sort of analogies here, that it's a fairly limited and it's a fairly shaky deal, and I think it underscores a lot of the insecurities that the United States has, perhaps a reaction to some of the problems with the European deal. This one's time limited. The European truce was not, and the Americans have been very upset that there's not been more progress with Europe. So I think it's reflecting a lot of these issues. At the end of the day, the full cost of taxes on trade has not yet hit the US economy. Right. So I think by having a truce, it gives time for the existing tax increases to start to be felt, right, and that then perhaps prompts the US administration into coming up with a longer-term deal.
Why do we have a truce? Who has the most to gain from a truce?
Well, I think to some extent, actually, it's the United States has the most to gain, because what we've seen, of course, is that the trade taxes have done enormous damage to equity markets in the last couple of months. I think it's the main reason for the equity correction has been the position on trade taxation. And the Chinese equity markets don't matter that much to the Chinese economy. The US equity markets are a little more significant, and politically they appear to matter a great deal more to the US president. And as I said, with the impact of the trade taxes starting to become more visible to the consumer after the end of the year in the States, the political heat probably goes up on the US president at that point.
Okay, but does it make you feel, we have concerns about the Chinese economy and some of the domestic spurring of demand, and we have concerns about, of course, the US economy. Does this help either at the margins, or does it help significantly, for example, with how policymakers can deal with the Chinese slowdown? Well,
I think what we've got to remember, China is supposed to be slowing down. China is growing too fast. Its long-term trend rate of growth is 5%, maybe even lower than 5%. And that's nothing to do with trade protection or anything like that. That's just basic demographics tells you the trend rate of growth has got to be a lot lower. So we shouldn't be worried about a China slowdown as such. What we want is a managed slowdown. We don't want a disorderly slowdown. And if we avoid significant trade taxes, then that does help with that. But of course, trade taxes go beyond just China, because China is, to some extent, the postage and packaging department for very long supply chains. So you hit China, you hit other countries, because companies have got to juggle their supply chains and move things around. So I think that this is something which goes beyond just China.